Okay, we are live with an awesome episode of the Unstoppable Mindset podcast. I'm so excited for this one. I'm your host, Sean Michael Crane. I'm here in the studio in beautiful Santa Barbara, California, and I got a guest with me today. I'm going to do an interview with Dr. Jarom Ipson. I'm sorry, Dr. Jarom Ipson. I always mispronounce your name. Dr. J and I have become friends. He's my personal doctor. He's also my business partner in Unstoppable 365. And I'm really excited for this episode because we're going to be sharing a lot of valuable information pertaining to nutrition, pertaining to understanding your blood work, really about how to self-optimize. And that's where I'm at in my journey is like, you guys, I want to live the ultimate life. Mentally, I want to be sound and focused. Spiritually, I want to be tapped in. Physically, I want to be fit. I want to have energy. I want to be happy. I want to bring that man home to my wife and kids. And so the next step for me is optimizing all of my cells. Everything that you don't see on the exterior, everything internally, I'm starting to understand. I'm gaining information and knowledge with Dr. J, and we're putting me on the right supplements and the right protocol to remedy anything that could affect my health long term, and then really how to optimize my health, because I thought I had energy, Dr. J. Like I thought that I was operating and firing on all cylinders, but come to find out I wasn't. And that's one of the things you told me is like, Sean, you think, you feel great. You think you have energy. You think you're healthy, but you don't really know until you look at your blood work. So I want to first introduce Dr. J. I want to let him share with you guys who he is, kind of a little background, and then I'm going to ask you some questions and we'll dive right into it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and I'm excited because I love that we're working together because we want the same thing for those people that we work with, and to have every guy, every woman that we work with to be able to feel that same way about themselves. And this is what I've been doing in my office here. I'm in Gilbert, Arizona, been doing for a long time, and now I get to do with people all over the country is help them to unlock those limits that they might don't even know are there, that they've been putting on themselves with their nutrition, or with how their cells are functioning, how their mitochondria are functioning, and all the things that are going on inside, like you said, below the skin. We're very different and diverse outside on our skin. Inside is even more, an infinitely more complex organism that we are. And being able to understand that just a little bit, I don't feel like I'm an expert at all. Well, compared to a lot of people, but I feel like I'm just starting to learn how to help to truly unlock the potential that people have, and really unlock those superhuman characteristics that all of us have the ability to achieve. And so that's what we're starting with. And like you said, there's a lot that we can do by ourselves, but when we understand deeper, and we can then make our protocols better for ourselves, whether it's our supplement protocol or our exercise protocol or the foods we're eating, all those things to help our body to optimize itself. Because that's what's going to happen. God gave us this amazing gift of a body, and it wants to be healthy. It wants to be optimized. And the majority of the time, we're doing things that stop that from happening. And so as we clear that out and eliminate those things, that's how we really can help people to unlock that new level of superhuman energy and performance and different things we didn't even know was possible.
Dude, 100%. So I want to know, I'm going to use this interview as an opportunity to really get to know you even more and pick your brain. Where did Dr. J start? Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was your life like? And then how did you get into practicing medicine? Like, what was that journey? Give me a quick little, background of you.
Yeah. So I grew up in Utah, in northern Utah. My family moved around a lot, and I was always the skinniest kid in class. I'd be one of the tallest, but I was the rail thin, skinny kid. And I love playing basketball. I love playing sports, but I always just got pushed around and was always getting beat up on because I was there willing to compete, but my body just wasn't keeping up with what my mind wanted to do. And my family moved around a little bit. I even had the opportunity when I was a young teenager to live in Israel for 2.5 years. And of course, I was a teenager, so I had a bad attitude about it. But I remember a lot, which was some great, amazing things, that places I was able to visit there. But one of the things for me that's always been is I've always known that, God, has a lot in plan for me. He gave me lots of gifts. He gave me a mind that is able to think and process things quickly, and then hopefully to be able to share those in a way that is effective for people. And so over time, I just always wanted to perform better. And it wasn't until actually after I graduated high school that I actually could start to put on muscle and I grew a couple more inches and started to put on weight. And so as I was going through school, trying to figure out what to do, I wasn't planning on being a doctor. I liked being healthy. I liked exercising, liked working out. But after I was in school and all my friends were going to medical this or pharmaceutical that or different things. And so they're like, hey, you need to take this class to help me study so I can pass my chemistry or my biochemistry or whatever. And so I took the classes with them. So I was basically taking all the prerequisites for pre-med. And then I got to the point and realized like, oh, like basically I'm ready to apply for medical school. Um, and I didn't even plan on doing that. And I like computers and I like playing computer games, but I was like, hey, being a doctor might be pretty cool. All my friends that I'm getting better grades than are going to be doctors. Why don't I try that? Um, and so I started looking more in conventional medicine. Actually, I worked at Walgreens pharmacy all during college. Um, and so there was the one part of medicine that really bugged me is working the pharmacy. I never felt like we were helping people. We were prescribing thousands of medications or distributing thousands of medications per month, but I never felt like we were helping people. And so luckily came around right before I was about to apply for medical school, even though I knew I didn't want to do that. I found naturopathic medical school, and naturopathic medical school is a full conventional, full medical school, full licensed medicine, but they have a different approach. Their goal is to get to the root cause of the issue and to figure out what's going on inside the body and that the body wants to heal itself. The body doesn't want band-aids with medications. The body wants to heal. And so once I found it, I was like, knew that hey, this is where I need to go. This is what I was meant to do. And so luckily there was one that was right close to where I was living in Tempe, Arizona. So I went, go through that whole process, graduated, um, and it magically worked out. And then of course there was after, like most people, once you graduate from college, you realize that you don't know don't know anything. So I've had to refine over the past decade plus my protocols to be able to help people optimize and help people actually be healthy. I tell people medical school teaches you not to kill people. After medical school, you learn how to optimize people. And so that's what we've been working on over the past decade plus since I've been a doctor to unleash that. And of course, along the way, the more important things, I met my wonderful, amazing, beautiful wife. We've been married for almost 15 years now. We have two little girls that are 8 and 11, and they are amazing little beasts in their own way. They really like working out and exercising, and my 11-year-old wants to be the CEO of my company. So Sean, she's coming in, she's going to be working with us soon and taking over the world. So
I love that. I love that, man. Hey, you
yeah,
said something that really caught my attention because I think it's so cool. So you went to naturopathic medical school. Is that the term?
right.
Naturopathic?
Yep.
Yeah. And I love what you said because you're like, they teach you there to find the root cause of issues. Whereas in mainstream medicine, it seems like they're just masking the symptoms of those issues versus trying to actually figure them out and remedy them. That's crazy, man. Right now, the more research I've been doing about nutrition and pharmaceuticals, and it's crazy to see that mainstream media, mainstream medicine, and the government don't appear to be doing everything they can to really help people to be the healthiest versions of themselves. And in fact, it seems to be the opposite. If you look at the food they recommend, if you look at the way that doctors treat patients and always prescribing pharmaceuticals, it appears that they're really trying to make us sick, and they're trying to poison us, and they're trying to prevent people from becoming their healthiest, best selves. Isn't this crazy, man? Like, you being a father, you and I share that value. Like, we love our family. We'll do anything to provide for our family. For me, I get so fired up over this issue because I have young children and because I understand the importance of the food we're putting in our bodies and how to really take care of ourselves. So, dude, why do you think this is? Why do you think that there's so many doctors out there and people who understand this, but they're still doing the wrong thing?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and the quick answer is I don't know because I've lived in my own little world of my being a doctor by myself, basically in my own bubble for so long. I don't understand, because they're aware of all this information that you just said. They know that's the case, but that yet they still do what insurance recommends. They still do that, and so really, what it comes down to is two things. One is follow the money. Wherever the money is driving it. So our food industry is designed to make people sick, and then once they're sick, our healthcare industry is designed to give them pills to cover up the symptoms. Healthcare and food are, like, if you look at the numbers, like trillions and trillions of dollars every year spent on that, and yet us in the United States, we're among the sickest nations that there are. So that's the first one. The second one is this crazy idea of actual health insurance. Like, when we think about insurance, like your car insurance, do you ever want to use your car insurance, Sean?
No, you don't want to get in an
Do you
accident.
want to use your life insurance ever?
Never.
Never. But yet somehow we think health insurance is required, and we can't do anything for our health unless it's covered by our health insurance. It's like crazy, this what has happened with insurance. And of course, I love the idea of having catastrophic care. If something happens, like if you're in a car accident and you get your limb chopped off, it's amazing that we have medical providers and that can do that. And that, of course, would be a crazy surgery. And that's where something like insurance would come in. But to break it down to our regular day-to-day care of what's happening in our country with how people are think that they need to be healthy is just crazy. And until that changes, there's not much hope for our country when it comes to overall health.
Yeah,
It's one
I
of
mean, the more I'm researching it, man, like it's so funny. People talk about conspiracy theories. They're like, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory." It's like the more you research this stuff and you're armed with factual information, the more you realize a lot of the stuff people say are conspiracies are true, and it's just been covered up for so long. But now with the internet and the prevalence of information, we're accessing this information. We're able to connect the dots, and the lies are being exposed. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I have young kids, and I see how damaging the foods that young kids eat, the food they feed at schools, the foods that they market to children. Like, all these companies should be, they should be found guilty of false advertising, because most of the foods out there that say all natural, like we talked about that earlier, all natural, there's no substance to that. It's just words. It doesn't mean that the food's better than other foods. There's foods that say like veggie on them, and you look at the back and it's with all these bad ingredients. So they're marketing these foods to children and parents, trying to act like they're healthy options, but they're not. And it's crazy. And so I want to kind of use that as a segue to talking about the results that I got working with you, my blood work, because I want everyone to have this information now. My wife did the blood work. I'm going to have my children do it eventually, because you really see what is happening to your body on a cellular level. Like the food that you eat and the stuff that you're doing has an effect on all your cells. And the way your cells function is going to affect the quality of your life, your mental health, your energy, your sleep, stress levels, just longevity, everything. So Dr. J and I did my blood work. And let's talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about is leaky gut. And this is something I'm learning more about. And if anybody listening to this, if you don't know what leaky gut is, pay attention, because this really affects the quality of your entire life. So I'm going to try to explain it, Dr. J, and then you can correct me, because this helps me to continue my education. So
we'll
essentially,
see how
leaky
much you
gut.
know.
Yeah. So first of all, you have to understand your gut health. Like, this is new information. People are just starting to understand that your gut actually, corresponds and communicates to your brain, right? So stuff that's taking place in your gut, you have neurons, and those cells communicate with the neurons, the brain cells that you have, and that affects the neurotransmitters that are released. Neurotransmitters are things like dopamine, serotonin. They're the things that are released in your brain that make you feel happy and calm and at ease. When you have a deficiency in those things, you feel, maybe depressed, maybe anxious, maybe unhappy. So the food that you eat directly affects the way those neurons in your brain, in your stomach, in your gut health, in your gut, communicate to your brain, which is crazy. So, like, that's so profound. Literally, the food you eat has an effect on your mental health, And so the term leaky gut, what that means is basically your gut tissue is damaged. Now, I have leaky gut. One of the things we found in my blood work is that I have leaky gut. And the way Dr. J explained it to me is you have this healthy, gut biome. And basically, when you have leaky gut, it's severed. It's almost like it can't connect anymore. And so let's just say there's a gap there that allows harmful bacteria to enter into a place it shouldn't be. And it prevents that good bacteria that helps your gut to thrive. It restricts it, So that's going to affect also the way that those cells are communicating to the brain. but then that creates inflammation. So when the bad bacteria gets in past that barrier, now you have inflammation, systemic inflammation, right, Dr. J, throughout your entire body. And that leads to chronic pain, the inability for your cells to absorb tons of nutrients. So it's crazy because now that I've been doing this blood work and researching it, I'm seeing how your gut is and your food is connected to everything, your mental health, your energy, chronic pain throughout your body, and then nutrient deficiencies. Like you could take a multivitamin, you could take all this stuff, but if your cells aren't absorbing it properly, it's useless. So, Dr. J, you shared a fact or a statistic that was very eye-opening to me. You said 99.9% of people, at least in America or in the modern countries, have leaky gut. Let's talk about like how that happens and how do you fix it long term and why that's so important.
Yeah. So one thing that I can add to your leaky gut explanation that was really good. Just one little
Getting
thing,
better.
because you talked about how the gut back those openings happen and the bacteria gets in, and even more than that, it's even more like toxins and proteins and other things that are other foreign substances that get into our body, and then our body recognizes those as foreign substance. So an example like we shared earlier, like you could eat broccoli, and broccoli, of course, is it's a healthy, nutritious food, has good nutrients there. We can maybe debate the quality of how healthy it is. That's for a different show. But as that broccoli breaks down, the proteins from that broccoli could end up in your bloodstream. And if it's not broken down into individual amino acids, your body will respond negatively to that broccoli protein. And so that starts that inflammatory cascade, and that's a big driver of that. Yeah, and so then going back, I think of course leaky gut is very prevalent. Like I shared with my numbers, I've ran my leaky gut panel going close to 900 to 1,000 times, and there's only been, on someone's initial blood work, only been one person that did not come back with positive for leaky gut out of all those people that we've tested. And so that's why I think it's very prevalent. Of course, that's just my small sample size of the people that I work with. But I will say, like I've talked about in my progression of I've been running programs for people for now 10 plus years as a doctor. When I switched to addressing leaky gut for every single person started to do better on my program. And so it goes to way back in ancient Greece. Hippocrates he said all disease starts in the gut, and that's for sure true. And he's always talking about leaky gut, because leaky gut is the cause. Leaky gut is the foundation for a good microbiome, or a healthy gut is a foundation for a good healthy microbiome. And so you can take all the best probiotics in the world, but if the leaky gut still isn't fixed, that home for your good bacteria to live just isn't there. And so from that, like you talked about, that becomes systemic. And so that damage, whether it's brain fog, low energy, achy joints, autoimmune diseases, all types of symptoms can come back and connect to leaky gut. And that's why it's been huge, whether we're reversing someone's diabetes, or we're reversing someone's autoimmune disease, or just helping them to up level if they're already a high performer and they want to reach superhuman status. Being able to address leaky gut is one of the foundational pieces, and it's something that I've done for basically every single person that I've worked with the past 7+ years. And we just continue to get better and better at how we find the problem and can address it completely. And as we do that, we help more people and get better faster and faster. So
That's so good. I mean, it's incredible. Like you said, 99% of people have it, and it leads to all those issues, lethargy, brain fog, chronic pain, eventually disease, autoimmune disorders. That's a
yep.
lot of stuff, and so let's talk to like the average viewer or somebody that's not super educated in leaky gut, because I just learned about it myself.
Yeah.
What causes it? I think you mentioned it maybe earlier, but what causes it? Let's just
Yeah.
break it down for them.
So if we would go all the way back, kind of the full story with leaky gut, is that all of us were born with leaky gut. And so when you came out of your mom or C-section, wherever it was, we had leaky gut. And the reason why that is because when we're born, we don't have an immune system. And so we need to absorb those proteins through our mother's milk, through the colostrum, to be able to help us have an immune system. until we get older and we start building our own immune system, we rely on that. And so that's why leaky gut exists. And it's actually beneficial for that first year of your life. And as your immune system starts to work better, and as you start to introduce foods, that leaky gut is supposed to seal up and to become that barrier and that healthy barrier. The biggest thing that I see nowadays, and we're talking about kids' health, is most people never actually heal their leaky gut, because the first thing that their food that they eat is, those little Cheerios that are gluten contaminated, or all these little gluten foods that cause issue, and prevent that leaky gut from ever healing. So, like, when I look back on my life, especially when I was a teenager and an older kid, I had a lot of digestive issues, and I just never could put them together. Why? And it's really because my leaky gut never had probably originally healed from what was going on. But as it gets older, say you go through the process and you do heal your leaky gut correctly, and then it's back as you're an adult. Because so we talked about gluten is a major trigger for leaky gut. They've shown studies that every time every single person eats gluten, it causes a little bit of micro damage to your small intestinal wall. So progressing towards leaky gut, and everyone just heals at different paces, and how much they're healing with that. I will say that our wheat that we use in current modern day United States is very different than what wheat was even 20 years ago. So it's much more inflammatory than what it used to be. And so some people, they probably can actually handle wheat from outside the United States, but our wheat is just so bad. But other things like stress, toxins, especially like one of the most common toxins is Roundup, glyphosate, that's sprayed everywhere. When I do people's toxins panel, that's one that pops up most frequently. But there's things like that. There's gut bacteria imbalance. Anytime that you've taken an antibiotic in your life, if you put an antibiotic in your mouth and swallowed that pill, you have caused leaky gut. And so it's all about balancing and healing from that. And so you're always somewhere on the spectrum. And you have the healthy gut on one side, you have leaky gut, and then the worst case scenario is celiac disease. So leaky gut can progress into celiac disease. There's even markers that we can measure to kind of see where you are on that scale. But yeah, basically our world is set up to cause leaky gut. And going back to what I said earlier, our bodies want to be healthy, and the majority of reasons why they're not healthy is because of things we do to the body, whether it's something we are consciously doing, or we think we're doing our best and it's actually not helping us.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Thank you for all that information. And, it goes to show, like we talked about earlier, the food we're eating, the toxins in the environment. It's crazy because all this stuff, like a lot of it started off as an idea to improve something, right? Like processed food. It was intended to just make more food for the masses, right? Roundup. It was intended to help crops grow and avoid weeds and things like that. But same with the antibiotics, right? But now we're seeing that there's a lot of negative side effects to these things. So you guys, if you're listening, and you have children and people that depend on you and care about you, make sure you're doing your research. A lot of the information out there too is misleading. Like I saw something yesterday, I think it said a government official comes out and says that processed food is not the cause for obesity, right? Did you see that, Dr. J? And how crazy is that? Like just how crazy is that, that a government official is coming out and saying things like donuts and pizza and, McDonald's does not cause, obesity and adverse health effects. Can you speak on that? Like what the heck, man?
Yeah. So that study was super interesting. It kind of made the rounds, at least on my social media, because I'm on all those health accounts. But yeah, it was interesting because the full title was, that more science needs to be done because unprocessed foods, they're not proven to be bad. The previous done science that shows that processed foods are bad for you were biased. And actually, I did love that title because basically the government agency that released that basically gave us permission to use that same argument to say that, oh, that means all the studies that you're doing are biased. We need to look at any conflicts of interest that studies might have that are making this study biased. Because back in the day, science used to be, let's figure out something, versus now science is, how can you prove me right? And so that's where the money's going, because you can go on PubMed or the different journal sites, and you can find studies that show that processed foods are good for you. And then you look, okay, who funded those studies? Which the same one, like who is funding that government agency that published that? Oh, it's all the big major food corporations, the Kraft, all the things. Which another crazy thing, Kraft was actually just bought. I believe it was Kraft was just bought by the biggest tobacco producer in the United States. And so now our cigarette companies are now in control of our food companies. Um, which is craziness, but that's where the money, like I said, follow the money. And so, yeah, like if you look at who funds that government agency, it's all the big food producers. And so, of course, the big food producers are going to want a result like that because they want to sell their product. They don't want people to be healthy.
Jeez, that's insane. Well, that's like recently they came out with an updated food pyramid and they had Lucky Charms on there, and Lucky Charms was above like a cut of steak.
Yeah.
And you've told me, I've asked you, Dr. J, what's the healthiest food you can eat? And you're like, if there's one thing that you can choose from to eat consistently over time, it'd be a ribeye steak, grass-fed ribeye steak, the most micronutrient dense type of food you could have, right?
Right.
It's crazy to think that they put Lucky Charms on the food pyramid. Like, you guys, you have to be an idiot to believe this stuff. It's so ridiculous now, and you're seeing people suffer so badly. Obesity rates are higher than ever. People are suffering from depression, mental health issues, anxiety, ADHD. All these issues are exacerbated because of the toxins in the environment and in our foods. And it doesn't take a genius to recognize that there's something wrong here. And so that's why I'm so fired up about teaming up with Dr. J and the company that we're building, Unstoppable 365, because we're on a mission to really change the narrative, raise the standards, change the narrative. We got to educate and arm you with real facts and teach people how to live happier, healthier lives. That's what this is all about. So that's a good segue into talking about hormones, because if your hormones are off, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're not going to feel whole. You're going to feel like something's wrong. And I talk to a lot of guys who, when they get into their 40s and 50s, they start to feel like that spark they once had is diminished. They don't feel as focused. They don't feel as happy about their lives. And they're just wondering why they feel that way. They're like, man, I have a family, my business is good, but why am I experiencing this? And in Unstoppable 365, we had hundreds and hundreds of clients who tell us this. These are men who are blue collar workers, business owners. And, come to find out it's because their hormones are out of whack. And so let's talk about this, Dr. J. Let's talk about specifically testosterone and also estrogen in men. And women. And also, let's touch a little bit on how young people are starting to see effects on their hormones when they never should be. So first of all, I did my blood work. My testosterone level came in at about 500, right? I should be between 800 and 1200 to feel at my best, to optimize my health. Let's do a little like myth busters here too, because leading up to more recently, I thought that putting testosterone into your body could have negative health effects, or you hear all the things like, oh, once you start it, you can never stop, or, oh, there could be adverse health effects down the road. So let's talk about a guy like me who's 35 and whose testosterone is 500. You guys see me. I document my lifestyle all the time. I'm fit. I'm 6% body fat. I lift every day. I'm healthy. I've done ultra marathons. Like, I thought my testosterone would be 1500. When I found out it was 500, I was pretty shocked. So it goes to show you, though, you can still look fit and be healthy and have low T. But why is this important, Dr. J? Can you kind of break it down for everyone listening?
Yeah, there's the big long explanations. Well, of course, we'll keep the short version. So it comes down to, like we've been talking about, how your cells function. And um, so hormones are like on off switches. So hormones turn cells on or turn cells off, because there's times for both. Sometimes you need cells turned on, sometimes you need cells turned off. And for men especially, men have a lot of testosterone receptors. That's a lot of little light switches that need to be flipped on for testosterone to be optimized, for you to feel your best, for your cells. When we talk about you feeling your best and being optimized, really, we're also talking about your cells being optimized and your cells working the best that they can. And so testosterone is huge. There's been studies that I've seen where they looked at guys' blood work from like 1930 and 1940, and an 80-year-old guy has a testosterone of 1400, versus now, like an 80-year-old guy, like he's lucky if he has 200. And so our world goes back to the same thing. Our world is set up to be basically anti-testosterone. We talked a little bit about chemicals. Most chemicals out there are estrogenic, meaning they're going to be off switches. They're going to turn off testosterone. They're going to block testosterone. They're going to block testosterone production. And so that's a lot of things there. But what they're showing, and what the longevity studies show, the doctors that are doing research in longevity and performance. Not the normal average day person, because the normal average day person is 500 would be a great testosterone. But those that are going to be living to 80 to 100 to 120 and having optimal body function, they show that whether, if you're a man, having testosterone, like you said, the range of 800 to 1200 is optimal. And so that's what we want to do. There's no reason why your cells want less. They want more. Your body needs a lot of those on switches turned on. And so your hormones don't decline because you age. You age because your hormones decline, is one of the big causes of aging. And so that's a big reason why it's beneficial to actually, since your body can't produce it, we live in this world that's kind of toxic to testosterone on multiple levels, but but physically as well. So, but when we give that to you, your body can then function at optimal levels, and you can start to perform better. Your mind is clear. And that's one of the other things that is a big myth with testosterone, is just because you have big muscles doesn't mean you have great testosterone. Because actually your brain uses so much of that testosterone for your moods, for your energy, for your focus, for your motivation, for your memory. That's one of the biggest reasons why I love testosterone so much, and prescribing testosterone for my patients is because they come to me and, they might not have any change in muscle mass over the first 3 months, but their mind is sharp. They remember things. Their memory recall is back. They're in the meeting at their office, and they feel like themselves. They can be assertive. They can be, confident. And that's another myth too. People think, oh, testosterone will cause you to be angry or is an anger problem, but actually the study shows not anger is actually more assertive. And so in the wrong situation, more assertiveness can come across as anger, but it needs to be all be balanced. And estrogen plays in there too. We haven't even talked about that yet. But yeah, to answer your other question, once you start testosterone, most guys don't want to stop it because they just notice the benefits on there. As long as we're doing it in safe levels, we're not going to permanently shut down your testosterone production. You'll still maintain a healthy testosterone production after. Of course, while we're giving you the endogenous testosterone, your body will make less, but it won't completely shut everything down. It'll just be your natural production will be lower, but your natural production wasn't very high anyway. And so, if needed, if you stop testosterone for whatever reason, you can return to whatever levels you were before, as long as we're doing the testosterone replacement correctly.
Yeah, that's so good. Really great explanation there, because I think a lot of people, when they hear testosterone, they almost think of steroids,
Yeah.
and the way you explained it about how your brain uses most of your testosterone, and really how it's an on-off switch to help your cells function optimally. Like if a bunch of switches are off when they should be on, and you're not going to function as well,
Right.
So I really like that, and how it affects mood, energy, memory, sleep, focus. I want to talk about estrogen too right now, but I just started taking TRT. I did my first shot last week. My wife actually did it right in my butt. And it kind of hurt a little bit. It was sore after that. I sent Dr. J a picture. He's like, please never do that again. But dude, he told me
Yeah,
it
I've
would
been
take
scarred for life with that after that.
he told me it would take a couple weeks or months for me to notice the difference. And I just happened to do it at night. My kids were going to sleep. My wife and I had a second to do it. And so it was like 8:30 at night. You're not supposed to do it that late, I guess, because it kind of can give you a boost of energy, some people have told me. But I fell asleep, and it was like 9 o'clock. And I woke up at 10:30 wide awake, fully alert, and I couldn't sleep till 1:30. And I already feel a difference. I've done one shot, and maybe it's the placebo effect, maybe it's not. But I set PRs in the gym on my deadlift. I have more energy. I'm drinking less coffee. I'm more alert. I'm sleeping a little less, but I feel better. Like I just feel alert. And the main thing I've noticed is, just more mentally dialed in already. And I mean, you have me on the right supplements too. So here's another thing. All the supplements you see out there, like the supplement industry is not regulated by the FDA. So most of the supplements that you guys are seeing and buying are complete garbage. They're not what they say they are. The quality is so poor, and you're putting stuff in your body that's not really helping you. So Dr. J has me on the supplements I need based on my report, based on what I was deficient in, based on the leaky gut that we just talked about. Everything that I need is based on my blood work, not just this cookie cutter, one size fits all type of deal. That's so important too. So you're helping me, to get the right nutrients in my body. You're helping me with the TRT. You're helping me to heal leaky gut, which you gave me the right supplements for that. And you gave me a peptide, which helps with that, which is BPC 157. And a lot of people are talking about peptides now. Everyone's talking about peptides. Let's explain what peptides are, how they help your body, who should take them, and kind of just your overall takeaway about peptides.
Yeah. So before peptides, I should say one thing about estrogen. If you're going to a place that for your testosterone replacement and they're not monitoring your estrogen, you should go to a different place because they don't know what they're doing. Because that's so important. We talked about the on-off switches. If your estrogen's out of control, estrogen acts like the off switch, and so it can counteract the benefits of testosterone, and also impact your body in negative ways. Because yeah, men need a little bit of estrogen, but not too much, and so we need to make sure that stays balanced. Um,
Hey, real quick, that's
but
such a good point. In women, what should their levels look like compared to men? Should they have higher estrogen and lower testosterone? Like, just real quick, can we just touch on that?
Yeah. So women, we same type of thing. Like we have the optimal testosterone ranges for men. There's optimal ranges for women for estrogen and progesterone. And so women are a little bit more complicated with what their hormones do.
No
But
way. Are you sure about that? I'm just
no,
kidding.
but here's the secret. But men are actually a lot more hormonal than women.
Okay.
So because actually women don't need a ton more estrogen than men do. They just need it to cycle in the correct way. And so, like a optimal testosterone for a man, or sorry, optimal estrogen for a man might be 20 to 30, depending on what their testosterone is. The ratio is important. But a woman's testosterone might be 30 to 80 or 30 to 100, optimal, depending on where they are in their cycle and if they are cycling or the menopause or premenopause. And so there's lots of factors in there. But that's not a big difference. If we're 20 to 30 and they're 30 to 80, that's not a ton. Versus testosterone, women should be, 50 to 80, and we're 800 to 1200. Right? We have a lot more. Men have a lot more hormones. That men are a lot more hormonal in general. Same like DHEA, some of these other smaller hormones too. We have much higher levels as men than women do. Um, so yeah, women get a kind of a bad rap because with the cycles going up and down, we feel like there's the hormonal issues with that. But really that just means your body is telling you that the hormones are off. So if you're having symptoms with your cycle, whether it's something heavy bleeding or light bleeding or trouble getting pregnant or all the different types of things that could happen, we have a whole multiple podcasts on women's hormones. Um, but it just comes down to optimizing those estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone in the right parts of your cycle, or getting a good stable dose if you're in perimenopause or menopause. So,
Okay. No, that's really good. And a lot of insight there. You actually did my wife's blood work too, so I'm excited to hear her report and help her to optimize her health as well. And
yeah,
it's the way that we're going to be living going forward. Anybody that I come into contact with that wants to be healthier and live the ultimate life, I'm going to share what I'm doing and I'm going to connect them to you and our team because it's so impactful. Like so impactful. I mean, we have guys right now who have been working with you for probably 6 months and they're like, man, I feel incredible. Everybody that I've talked to who's working with you, Tommy Mello, who else? There's so many people, but they all say like, dude, I feel incredible. I feel younger. I feel sharp. I feel crisp. So anybody that we can, Dr. J, we're going to start helping them and treat them. Let's talk about peptides too, because a lot of people want to know about peptides. Who should take peptides? How does it help you? What is a peptide?
yeah. So peptides is a broad term. So it might be new for a lot of people, but it's actually been around for a long time. So what a peptide is a chain of amino acids. So it's like a smaller protein that is used therapeutically in the body. And so it can be used for lots of things. There's lots of peptides. There's a couple hundred different peptides that are out there therapeutically. Um, when people are referring to it now on social media, most of the time they're talking about peptides that help with building muscle or losing fat. That's the trendy term for peptide therapies now.
What's the one that
Um,
everyone's using to lose fat? Because I want to talk about that one specifically.
yeah,
Starts with an O, right?
so there's multiple brand names for it, but basically semaglutide is the active ingredient of the peptide. So whether it's Ozempic or Wegovy
Okay.
or um, there's whatever the whole long list, I forget all the names. Um, but they're all the same active ingredient. They're just administered in different ways or have different patents. Um, and so it's it works by kind of forcing insulin sensitivity and forcing weight loss through that pathway.
Mhm.
And there's definitely a lot of side effects. In fact, some of the studies show that up to 70% of people quit the medication because the side effects are so bad and it's not sustainable long term,
Wow.
which is kind of how it's going to be. If you're going to have success with it, you do need to take it long term, which of course we never like band-aids. So whether it's a peptide or a conventional medication, we want to make sure we're using it in a way that builds up the body, not using it as a band-aid. And so That's what a lot of this, and it can be both ways. Like you can use testosterone as a band-aid, or you can use testosterone to build up your body. And so you can use, I'm generally against semaglutide. I'm trying to be more open and trying to see if I can find some good research and some good protocols to be able to use it in a safe way for people, especially guys that we've got them locked in with their diet, with things that are working well. And so they're eating right, they're exercising, and then maybe using a small, and this is new. We just were talking about semaglutide just the other day, Sean. But so there might be, theoretically, there's a potential way to use that in someone's process if they've already figured out some diet stuff, they're already figuring out their exercise stuff, they're dialed in their supplements, and they just want to accelerate that fat loss. There could potentially be some use for that there. But just using
Okay.
them by itself without changing diet, without exercising, especially not getting enough protein in, has huge long-term detrimental effects on cardiovascular health, on long-term metabolic health, so many different things that are connected back with that. So those are the semaglutides. Those are the super popular ones. And then some other popular ones are the ones that are building muscles, whether it's the MK677 or some of the other growth hormone secreting ones. So there's a whole group of those, and they help with muscle recovery and workout recovery and growth hormone release and different things like that. So those I really like. Those are a way to build up what your body does. So they can be very beneficial in helping to, unlock higher levels of functioning as we optimize what your cells are doing and what's going on with that.
Yeah. And there's so much information here. So I'm going to have Dr. J back on the podcast many times because I get a lot out of it and I want to keep bringing this information to the world. And we actually had him on as a guest today for one of my group coaching calls with all the men that are in my coaching program. And it's super informative. One of the things I told the guys is like, hey, I'm always going to be transparent with you about what I'm doing. Like, I'm never going to tell you that you should do something or try something or bring a guest on if I don't believe in what they're doing, if I haven't tried it or researched it. And that's why, like, Dr. J and we did my blood work. I was actually going to share it and stream it on here live. Maybe next time we'll do that. We'll kind of share it on the screen and go over the different markers and really educate people on what to look for, how you're helping me. But essentially, the only thing you really told me is like, hey, be mindful of seed oils because those markers are a little high. So maybe that's certain foods that you're eating in restaurants or certain processed foods that you don't know have seed oils, like protein powder, which you wouldn't think, or maybe certain granola that you wouldn't think. You think it's healthy, right? You told me I had leaky gut, which I did not think I'd have. So I've cut out all gluten. I've cut out really all processed food. And you got me on a peptide, BPC 157, which is going to help with the leaky gut. We just explained to you why that's important, how leaky gut affects everything in your life. And then you got me on TRT. So I'm taking a little bit of testosterone one time a week to help me optimize everything. All my cells are going to be firing properly. I told you I already feel more focused, more energized, like just dialed in, locked in. So I want to keep documenting this journey, my personal journey of self-optimization, so I can share this information with the world and be an example of like how to do it the right way. So many guys I know in the past have just shot up testosterone because they want to get bigger, or they're putting stuff in their body and they have no idea how it's affecting you. So one of the biggest things is you have to continuously do your blood work. What would you say? Every 3 to 6 months, probably every 6 months, do your blood work again, do the saliva test we did, see how the testosterone is affecting your body, see if estrogen went up or not, see how the leaky gut's doing. Are you healing? Look at the cells and how they're absorbing nutrients. Just like, you would with a mechanic in your vehicle, your car, or just like you do in a business and you have P&Ls and a budget. You want to know the numbers. You want to know exactly what's happening and how to really fix it or how to improve it. So that's the thing I love the most, man, is we're not just doing guesswork here. Like, you are a legitimate doctor. You've practiced medicine for so long. You have a really good mindset around healing people. Like, we share the same mindset there. And so I'm just so fired up to keep sharing this information with the world, keep doing these episodes. And dude, it's the future, man. If you're somebody like me who wants to live the ultimate life, you want to be physically fit, you want to be just a mental warrior, you want to be the best leader for your family, you want to crush it in business and really make an impact on the world, this is definitely something that you have to incorporate into your life. Because if you're not healthy, if you're not functioning at a high level and you don't have energy and focus and drive, you're not going to be able to carry out the mission. You're going to burn out, or you're going to settle at some point. You're not going to keep climbing for newer and higher levels. So for me, man, that's what it's all about. And Dr. J, like, I really appreciate you being here and sharing all this information and your time. Is there anything else you'd want to share with the viewers? Like I said, we're going to have a bunch of episodes with you. I want you on
Yeah.
here all the time. But is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
So, we'll definitely get to those over time and different things. But I think the one thing that came to my mind as you were wrapping up there is that there's no such thing as just getting old. So if ever in your mind you thought, "Oh, I'm just getting old now," no, that's a sign your body's telling you that something is wrong. So there's no such thing as normal aging. There's only unhealthy aging, and that's why that blood work is so important. Men, for whatever reason, most of our clients that we've worked so far with men, I'm 70-80% men, and Sean, you're even higher percentage than that. Of course, we do help women with Unstoppable 365 too, but men have just this adverse, thought of going to the doctor, going to blood work. And so that's why I do what I do, to be different, to be the doctor that's not just going to give you a pill to try to band-aid and cover up your symptoms, but let's figure out what's going on so we can correct it so that you can achieve this ultimate life. Like your goal is to, you can become unstoppable. You can, live to 80 and be the cool great grandpa instead of being the one that's not even there. And so,
Yeah, dude, I'm going to be the most badass 100-year-old that's ever lived. That's one of my new goals. I'm going to be the most badass, vibrant, energetic 100-year-old person that's ever lived. That's a new goal of mine. And Dr. J, you're going to help me, okay? Because I'm 35, man, and I'm starting this now. And I'm cutting all this stuff out to the best of my ability. Here's the thing. If you're listening, you're going, dang, these guys are too serious. Like, I want to live a little. I mean, there is room to live a little. It just depends on where on the spectrum you want to exist. Over here is where I want to live. Over here is where people that are not even informed live, and they're suffering. So you can find where you want to live on the spectrum. I mean, you could have a slice of pizza sometimes. You could have cake on your kid's birthday. You can have a beer on New Year's Eve, whatever. I won't, because I'm all in on this life. But I'm just saying, like, when you do your blood work and you work with professionals like we are, you start to find that perfect fit for you, and you have the information to make the right choices, informed choices. So unstoppable365.com. You can reach out to me, Dr. J, Whitney Jones. She's running the whole women's division. And you guys, if you want to be a part of something special, that's what our company is. We're changing the world. We are literally going to make a massive impact on how people think about health, how they live, and really how they make an impact on those around them. So we're going to wrap this episode up. Please drop in the comments if you have any more questions for me or Dr. J. Share this with somebody that needs to hear this information. Subscribe, like, do all the stuff that supports the channel. And we'll be back with a bunch of more fire episodes for you guys in the future. Thank you, Dr. J. You're the man.
Thanks, Sean.